So Janet, you're the author of Facing Their Lions, a collection of short stories to help young people deal with death and dying. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be an author of bereavement stories?
Well, by accident really.
Right.
My background is in drama and always working with adolescents, not with little children. And often when perhaps we had a competition or something like that and I couldn't find the right script, I'd write a script. Or I'd be asked by the community to do a special play for Easter or something like that, and then I'd write a script. Then I wrote nothing for a very long time. Retired from teaching, went to a children's hospice, and at the hospice, one time, the storyteller, the professional storyteller, couldn't actually come. So they said, will you do it? So I said, oh yes, and thought, oh my God, what do I tell? How do I find a story that's suitable for a remembering weekend where recently bereaved parents and siblings would be attending and emotions would be very raw? So in the end, I started to write things myself. Where did I get the ideas from? Well, I think it was from being an adolescent counsellor for many, many years. I've dealt with children and young people who've been in crisis through loss. And so all the stories had roots in reality. I don't think I could have written at all if I hadn't had that. And then when this project came along, I thought, yes, I'll have a go. And it's very different writing a script or telling a story than writing a story to be read, because there's quite a gap really between what you actually think and what somebody else reads. So that I struggled with a bit to start with. But I just went writing about all the different situations I'd come across, and then creating characters around those and events. And then I got really into it and thoroughly enjoyed it.
And it's quite an unusual title, isn't it, Facing Their Lions? Can you tell us how you came up with the idea of the title and what's symbolic about the title, what it means?
I think death and loss are two things that everybody copes with in life. They're a universal certainty, aren't they? But whatever age we are, they almost take our breath away. Nothing prepares us for them. Nothing. When you're an adolescent and everything in your world is upside down anyway, it must be the most horrendous event. It must be like facing your biggest fear. So to me, facing their lions, they have to really grip themselves, feel that this is something I've got to get through. It takes enormous courage, huge courage, and it's a personal thing, because although we can support and we can help, teenagers particularly are not known for expressing themselves particularly, and they don't want to talk about their emotions. So for them, it's this turmoil, this internal turmoil that they have to go through and come out the other side. So that's where Facing Their Lions came from.
And what's your vision for the resource? I mean, how do you think it can help teenagers and families deal with death and dying?
I think stories are safe. If I have experienced a great loss in my life, it may be so great and so overwhelming that I might not want to even acknowledge it, let alone talk about it. If I read a story, it's something which is two things really. It is detached from me in that it is not my story, but it's also involving me, because I recognise that some of the emotions the characters are going through, some of the things they have had to face, some of the fears they have for the future, and how their lives are going to irrevocably change, those characters are actually dealing with them. And so some of the things that I'm feeling are mirrored by the characters, but it's a safe environment. And in each of the stories there is resolution, and sometimes, particularly say in the suicide story, that is the most terrifying thing for a teenager to be confronted by, and they can't see any resolution to that. So if they go through the story, they may read it once, they may forget about it, but it will come back to them, and they may revisit it, and that in itself may help them cope with the situation that they're in. That's what I hope.
And what sort of 3 nuggets of advice would you give parents or carers of teenagers who have experienced or currently experiencing a bereavement?
The first thing is, be available to listen. Don't talk, listen. That's the most important thing. And if they want you there, and if they want to talk to you, it's no good saying, oh, I'm a bit busy at the moment, but look, tomorrow or this evening. That doesn't work. You have got to be available and really keep to that. That's a commitment. That's the first thing, listening. The next thing, I think, is to reinforce that listening by showing that you've heard what they've said. Because so often, when we're listening to somebody, we're only half listening, and we're actually thinking about what we're going to say next. We don't actually hear all the time. So by sometimes repeating what they've said, or actually saying to them, look, have I got this right? Is that how you feel? And actually repeating their words. So you really are attending and giving them the best attention you possibly can. That, I think, is really important. And the other thing I would say is always give them space. You know, yes, we love to give somebody a hug, but they may not want you to give them a hug. So don't eyeball them, don't sit across the table like you and I are. Sit next to them. Keep your space away from their space until you feel it's the right time to just put an arm around the shoulder. But you have to be invited in. And those, I think, are the 3 things that I would recommend.
Thank you, Janet. Well, thank you very much for that interview. And just to let everyone know that you can buy your copy of Facing Their Lions by going to the sayinggoodbyematters.com website. So thanks very much for your time, Janet.
Thank you.
Thank you.